Hello again. You know, I guess sometimes it feels a little weird to be doing this by myself, but I'm having such a profound moment with myself that I feel like I need to share it. I'm kind of laughing about it because I'm sitting here cooking again, but at least it gives me something to kind of keep myself occupied so that I can talk. But I'm sitting here, flowing with thoughts and ideas, and honestly, feeling really good, I guess, because of this video I was just watching, of somebody basically describing the same thing that I feel like I'm coming into on a sense of information level, because I've known about this stuff forever, but now I'm starting to become more and more comfortable with talking about it publicly, even so much to the point that I almost share it with just about everyone that I talk to, and I don't care that I do that, regardless of the reactions that I get. But I wouldn't even say necessarily I'm getting negative reactions anymore. The crazy thing is, it seems like a lot of people actually seem to be more or less more and more on to the idea of at least hearing it, regardless of what they do with that information. But I'm finding that people are open to it. So, like, I can't even listen to the things that a lot of people have told me in the past and continue to say from those, circles, that this is something that they, whether they can get behind it or not, that it doesn't matter anymore. Because I guess at the end of the day, if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I've said that enough times. And, in talks with some new friends, not sure how, that will play out, but not to say anything negative, but, that even talking with them, it feels like some people are just, it feels like they're ready, and they have questions, and they're curious about one thing, but then they can't seem to break themselves for something else. And what I specifically mean by this, when I bring this up, is, a phrase that somebody else was doing is paradigm blindness. And it's like when you introduce something so shocking of a concept, even if it's just a thought process, upon a simple understanding of looking at another way of looking at things or saying things about general narratives in the social construct here, like for example, geological implications, maybe like heliocentric implications, the heliocentric model, I guess what I'm trying to say, without going into all of it, but I want to go into all of it, is that it is better to me to be questioning everything than to be eating up whatever they tell you. And it has become so freeing to the point that I don't care if nobody else would listen or nobody else would come with me, that I know that there's always people who are open-minded enough. And I think it's funny that a lot of people tell me from those circles, or I should say I have been, not that it happens all the time, it just happens sometimes, that some people think that I'm closed-minded even from that other side of it. I think I guess specifically what I'm talking about is I had a conversation with somebody, and I guess to not give rise to any of it, I guess I'm realizing now on the outside of it, is that, well, I guess it felt like a lot of projecting. Because for me, talking about this stuff and seeing it feels so freeing to accept something that I would say that I know, or at least I feel like I know, based on information that I get from my body senses, when it comes to the environment and the world and how I perceive the world around me. And that makes it particularly interesting because it means that I'm moving through the world in a very different way But now I want to speak out about that because I feel like I'm not the only one. And how and the ways I choose to perceive, but a lot of it, I would say, it's not something I even feel like I'm choosing to do, seems to shape and change a lot of the discussions and ways in which things have been told. And in that way, I have found that a lot of what we have been told is a lie. And the interesting question I get back, and I call it interesting because I find it interesting, is the question on the other end of it is, well, what would be the point of that? And how would they be able to do that? You know, well, and if they did do that, and they were doing that, then I guess the questions already are kind of, it's not wrong to have questions. It's interesting, and you should have the questions. But I guess even if I had an answer, or I try to give an answer, the answer is difficult because it's already like you're on the cusp and you want to see more, but it's like you think I'm trying to convince you. And I guess that's always the difference here, is I just want to share information. I want to share you what I found because I find it interesting, and because I do see that we are in a very particular kind of place. You know, it really feels like we are being told something else on purpose so that they can kind of direct society however they want. But I guess even if I were to give you my reasoning behind why I think that it doesn't matter. Even if I was to have found the information that would be accurate, I don't think any of that matters. Because I guess at the core, we are so much more powerful than any of that, and to say otherwise is part of like how we've been pushed down our whole lives to think otherwise. And I guess denying your senses is part of the problem. And I guess being someone that can never exist in a sense of doing something otherwise is why I guess I'm such a different, in an anomalous kind of sense. Because I can't say that I've ever found myself without my senses, because I have been like this way since a child. And so in being like that, it makes it difficult, I guess, on the other end, because it's like I've never really known anything different. If anything, what has been happening more is that I continue to develop more and more and more, and get even more and more sensitive to the environment and people around me. But I wouldn't put a negative connotation on that. I won't say that it isn't overwhelming, because it is. But I will say that it changes how you perceive and move and even talk with others. And you know, I won't say that it hasn't been difficult, because it has been difficult, but I will also state that it hasn't been any less fun. And you know, something I do always say to everybody when I'm talking about these kind of things is, even if no one ever wanted to, just like, let's say I was trying to convince everybody otherwise, and let's say that everything you were told is a lie, and I'm trying to convince you otherwise. The crazy thing to me is that, to me, it doesn't matter, and I don't really care, I guess, what you choose. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Hold on. I guess this is why it's difficult to talk to myself, or to talk to you, or whoever, I guess, without some kind of like response to kind of keep me going here. But maybe it'd be better if I wrote down notes, right? Just give me a second. I guess what I'm saying is, my point has never been to convince you of anything, or any other ways. If anything, what I see and what I realize, being so outside of all of it, is that if you're being programmed, which I feel like you are, everybody, everything, then I guess what I would want to do is to give you your freedom back, your sense of self without a system attached to it. And what I mean by this is that since we were all children, at least in the generation, but either way, most of us for the last 200 years, if not longer, right, have been systematically programmed from early adolescence, if not even younger, to a point where we have been told and given an answer for everything. The sky is blue. This is why it's blue. The light comes down from the sun. It refracts. We're on a globe. Rocks form in sedimentary layers like this over thousands of years. I can give many, many different examples. Space is a vacuum. All these things, right? Okay, fine. But what I'm saying is, if we only ever take what we've been told as a truth, then how would we ever know the truth? So what's crazy to me on the other side of it is nobody even wants to ask the question, and they get even upset when you do. Like, it's almost like it's upsetting them. It's like, who the fuck are we talking to? There isn't anyone else here. This is me and you, and we're having a conversation, and I'm trying to, pick your brain a little bit. But at the same time, it's like, why don't you have any other ideas, right? Like, you never thought to think about this stuff. Like, you just want to go about your life and not. I don't know. I guess I live completely differently because I can't just sit here and accept that, because for me that's not the way I'm seeing things, and it's not the way that I've seen things my entire life. And I'm not going to claim that I know what the answer is, but I'm going to certainly say that I know what it isn't. And I guess that's why I was getting really excited, because it was cool to hear somebody else say that for once, on the other end of it, because I won't lie that it has felt kind of isolating, feeling like I'm one of the only people who seems to be talking about these kind of things and cares enough to feel like, what the hell are we going to do about this? And talks with my roommate has been really fun, because I've had another person to kind of tell me the other side, which has been nice. But at the same time, if we're like, okay, if we're in the Matrix, and I tell you that we're in the Matrix, and you accept that we're in the Matrix, but then you decide to stay in it, it's like, well, I don't know, what's the core of what you want to do with your life? I guess, does it matter? I guess it's just about having an open mind. And, one of the most freeing things I think any one of us can do for ourselves is to have full autonomy over your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And if you're only ever spouting something else that somebody else has said, and you haven't even taken the time to go look into it yourself, then are they really your thoughts? Are they really your ideas? Are they really your actions? I mean, you're the one, doing the song and dance, but who's pulling the string? The crazy part is the string so far away that you don't even know where it's coming from? And could you even tell me that you believe that's even happening? I don't necessarily know where we are or what this reality is, and if it's even something that we can comprehend. But I think that if some of us could comprehend it and give you some more, there's definitely more information that a lot of us are privy to than it seems like everyone else. And it's really only because, well, we care enough to do something about it. And I think, again, the most freeing thing any one of us can do is think for ourselves. And I guess it should matter then. It really shouldn't. And it doesn't. But, I don't know. I guess it is fun on the other end of it, because I don't know. I would at least rather want to talk about it. That's the whole point of the podcast, is to have a conversation about it. And I guess that has been sort of a struggle, I guess, in talking with new people to a certain extent, because I would think that they're on the level sometimes, and then they turn the conversation into a debate. And then, of course, debates get a little heated or frustrating or whatever you want to call it. But to me, that's never the goal. The point isn't me to convince you otherwise of my point or my stance. That's why I'm almost never going to give any sources on any of the stuff that I bring up, because the whole point of that is for you to look into it yourself. You know, if you find what I'm saying interesting and you like the concept, like, you know, what if, you know, we were not told exactly how petrification works? And what if organs, bones, and even larger objects could be petrified quicker and in different ways? And here's something that's interesting. What if sap is... What if clear quartz or quartz crystal is petrified sap? What if the trees were much larger than we could even imagine? What if the world itself is not what we think it is in any regard? And I don't care anymore, like, what you know, the difficulties with even trying to grasp that concept. You know, it's crazy to me on the other end that people don't even want to think about it. It's I don't know. I guess I'm one of those people until you put me in like a spaceship and I'm outside of the earth and I can see it for myself, then it would be hard for me to follow some of those narratives. And it is one of those kind of crazy ideas that if that none of that's true, because, you know, even touching on some of these ideas, some people are like, oh my God, this is crazy. What are we, on a fucking flat plane, or are we on a giant donut? Or it's like, dude, I don't even know what to call it. Okay, but it doesn't feel like what they say it is. And there are things that don't add up. And so even if, you know, I'm not even trying to say necessarily that isn't true, but the biggest truth that you could ever question yourself on is, do you really believe your reality is the way that it is? And if it isn't, and you find that it isn't, then do you lose your sense of self? You know, if you woke up tomorrow and someone gave you a book and it was called The Truth, and you read it, and everything that you read in it realized that everything that you know was a lie, would you give up? Would you feel like there was no point in going on, or would you feel like, how would you even move through the world at that point? You know, would you tell other people? You know, what would you do with that information if you found out that was? Would you go around screaming at the top of your lungs, telling to get everybody to listen to you, to convince them otherwise? You know, if this is the Matrix and you found yourself and you woke up and you realized that you were still in it, but you knew the truth, what would you do with that? And I don't know. I guess there's a lot more, obviously, and I like, you know, it's a lot easier to have these conversations with somebody else. Maybe I can try and format this in a sense where I set it up like I'm talking to you on the other side, because I can feel that you're listening, but I'm, you know, having struggles keeping it going for a moment. So that was really the main thought process there. So I will leave it at that.